Let's embark on the Ark Republic to hear current news that's published. More than gossip and chatter, covering current affairs that matter. We talk issues with professional views, all keeping you in queue. We wanted a higher vibe for these days and times, to free the voices and minds, reporting the sign of the times, so all can build. Let's shine, yeah.
Welcome to Ark Republic. I am Kaia Nyambi Shivers with a very special interview and talk with a regular guest contributor, Dane Crawford. You have seen him, you have seen him bless Ark Republic conversations, and we are here to talk about an issue that is near and dear to us being both from Los Angeles. I thought it would be good for us to have a conversation about the political scandal currently racking LA and the whole establishment, Democratic politics in particular. And it's only about 3 Black people left in LA. And this involves, this involves a Black politician, and actually, with the exception of Maxine Waters, probably the most kind of tenured politician we have in Los Angeles.
Absolutely, for sure.
Right, and maybe perhaps Karen Bass, but I would even say he even has more weight than Karen Bass.
Yes.
In some aspects, right?
In some aspects, yes.
Yeah, in some aspects.
In the city of LA, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So last week, and I need to read this properly so we can. This is directly from the Department of Justice of California. It says, longtime politician Mark Ridley-Thomas and former dean of the School of Social Work, whose name is Marilyn Louise Flynn, from University of Southern California, we all know it as USC, were indicted on federal corruption charges that allege a bribery scheme in which a Ridley-Thomas relative, which we all know as his son, that is, even though they don't name the relative, but we all know as his son, received substantial benefits from the university in exchange for Mark Ridley-Thomas's supporting county contracts and lucrative contract amendments with the university while he served as LA County Board of Supervisors. There's a 20-count indictment that alleges Mark Ridley-Thomas, who is now a member of Los Angeles City Council, conspired with the former dean, Marilyn Louise Flynn, a formerly tenured professor and dean of University School of Social Work. Like I said, who agreed to provide Mark Ridley-Thomas's relative, which we all speculate is his son, with graduate school admission, a full tuition scholarship, a paid professorship, and a mechanism to funnel Mark Ridley-Thomas campaign funds through the university to a nonprofit to be operated by the relative. Mark Ridley-Thomas, who was 66, the former Dean Flynn, 83, both have actually countered these charges. And as of late, Mark Ridley-Thomas's lawyer has entered in a not guilty plea. This is very interesting because this also falls on recently a statement was released, and a statement was released by this is what you call a gut check in politics. So a statement was released by former LA 8th District City Council member and former it was also the chief of police for LAPD.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right? Bernard Parks released a statement. I'm just going to give you just a little bit of what he said, right? In his statement, he said, let me get this, make sure I get this right, is that no one should be surprised of this indictment. Less than a decade ago, let me just kind of wheel it in and just go straight to Mark Ridley-Thomas. He says, as Ridley-Thomas and I prepare to face each other in the general election for the second district seat on the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, one of my representatives informed a member of Ridley-Thomas's campaign staff that our office had been approached by a member of the FBI seeking information on him, his campaign, and former SEIU labor leader Tyrone Freeman. My representative told the Ridley-Thomas staffer that judging by the questions the FBI officially was asking, it was best to relay the information to Ridley-Thomas in hopes that he would take appropriate action to mitigate the potential embarrassment that many of his constituents feel now. After a short time, it became apparent to our campaign that Ridley-Thomas had no intention of changing his behavior or his relationships and intended to continue being the beneficiary of what would eventually grow to become anywhere between $8 and $10 million of questionable funding by Tyrone Freeman, the SEIU leader, and by former LA County Federation head Maria Elana Durazo. Freeman is now an ex-convict. Durazo is now a California state senator, right? Then he goes on and talks about, in this, he begins to explain why he takes this stance. And at the end, he says, after this, it's a page turner, and it's a several page turner. He says this: the federal government is handing out indictments like Halloween candy to labor leaders all too often.
Hey, yo.
Most recently in Northern California, locally, the LA County Federation of Labor has always, and he goes on, handing out indictments like Halloween candy. I must earmark this. I had the opportunity to speak to a community, basically a community watchdog, and as well as a man who oversees the Afiba Center, the Afiba Center was the cultural center on Slauson and Crenshaw. And they talked about these improprieties that were made, not to Mark Ridley-Thomas, but this system of corruption that was in place, the city council. What is going on in LA right now? What is the talk about this?
So there's two talking points that's going on right now. Basically, there's the side of, we knew Mark was doing this the whole time. It was about time. That's one side. One side of it is, the other side of it is, they just trying to bring the black man down. That's going to be a side of it. And then there's the point of, all other politicians do this on the regular all the time and get away with it, and not a problem until a black man do it. That's the other. So those are the angles that I've been hearing out here in LA and from the streets. Interestingly enough, this indictment came down right when he was supposed to be a big part of launching Karen Bass's mayoral run.
I was going to mention that. I was going to mention how connected would this be, since Karen Bass, Mark Ridley-Thomas, Marquise Harris Dawson, there is a black political circle, right? There's a couple, but this is like the black, and Karen Bass has been keeping her nose very clean.
Yes.
This happens, right?
Yes.
So it's like, I smell spaghetti or Garcetti behind this, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's been very interesting because I like the timing, especially going back to Bernard Park's comment that they have been doing this since he was gearing up to run against him. And now the indictments come down like right after Karen announces her run, and right after everybody know that Mark really was supposed to be a huge surrogate for her run. So listen, we know how dirty the Democrats are. And we know how dirty Democrats are to the black folks in their party, especially when they feel like the black folks in their party are about to really amass power. And Karen Bass has been rising in the ranks. Karen Bass has slowly been becoming a superstar on the Democratic stage since since she took Senator Harris.
Right. No, when you talk about locally, it was a
locally. Yeah, Maxine Waters. So
not Maxine Waters. It was another person. I have to look it up. But she took her place.
Yeah.
Then she becomes, in Congress, she becomes the head of the Congressional Black Caucus.
Yes.
Then she becomes one of the names that were in the hat for the vice presidency, this 2020 presidency. So she has been quietly, or I want to say quietly, because she has not made any big waves. Right.
No, you're right. It's been quiet. She's been quietly moving up in the ranks. Mm-hmm. She's been quietly amassing power. And, so listen, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but I feel like this could be a bit of it could be some power play towards her as well. A bit of it could be some power play towards her as well. But and the rest of it is, how they do us, they feel like he's getting too big for his britches.
Right.
We got to bring him down.
Okay, so let's kind of give people who do not know who Mark Ridley-Thomas is an understanding of his stature in Los Angeles politics and why this is such a huge, huge political blow to, or maybe not. I mean, some people might.
No, I think it is. I think, well, Mark Ridley-Thomas, I think is probably, and you might be able to attest to this as well. He's probably one of the first and the biggest politicians in LA when it came to name recognition since we were kids. Like since we were kids, we saw Mark Ridley-Thomas and we watched him rise up in the ranks. And it got to the point where if his name was on the ballot, he was going to win, basically, no matter who he was going up against, which also shows that he probably had an amount of power in Los Angeles that they probably don't want a black man wielding. And like, I'm not here to talk about his guilt or innocence because I don't know enough to know if he's guilty or innocent of this. But I will say, it sounds like what they're charging him with is something that I've seen that has been par for the course for all politicians in regards to quid pro quo for giving contracts to certain schools, giving contracts to certain government funding and entities. Like we've seen that all the time. Like that's the get down. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they're coming down on him like this with 20 counts and it's federal. So what people don't understand is federal is most times it's federal. It's a tight knit case, airtight case. 98% conviction rate.
Right. Yeah, it's highly likely something is going to stick in that, you know, yes. and so let me kind of, you know, so Mark Ridley-Thomas is represents kind of rise from the ranks, you know, this, you know, coming from, I don't know if I want to say necessarily grassroots, but he comes from having a little name to then establishing himself to being the person that you quote unquote kiss the ring, if you want to go through black politics. However, he's ruffled a lot of feathers, even though he is the most tenured at this point black politician, but local politician. Maxine Waters is, you know, she's a federal congressperson, but right now I think maybe Yvonne Brathwaite Burke. I wonder how long she was on, but But yeah, you see what I'm saying? But also you've got his, but also he has served in several capacities. He went from LA County Supervisor. First, I think he was on the city council. Then he went to LA County Supervisor. Then he went back to city council, right? So he has worn several significant hats. He has moved through a lot of different circles and has a lot of conversations. And it was, if you wanted to kind of, and it wasn't a sure win because some of the people that he endorsed did not win. And it's part of this, I would say, because I'm going to give kind of like the counter view of people who were not particularly pleased or impressed with Mark Ridley-Thomas's dwindling performance and really bringing resources to the community, right? And so this indictment is an indication of some of the concerns, if it is in fact true. What is a fact is that his son, there were sexual allegations against him. He did step down and he is employed with USC. Those are actual facts, right? Yes. So that looks funky like an old batch of collard greens.
Yeah.
If Bernard Parks is right, he says that Bernard Parks gave USC the land to the Coliseum, the sports arena, and something else, to where now USC gets a nice chunk of change from when the Rams played there. So and they got the land for free, right? So in a city where you have massive homelessness, you have historic gentrification going on, and the wealth gaps are huge, right? And race is tied into it. This is really detrimental, you know.
It's a horrible look. It's a horrible look. And, you know, we've talked about this, you know, on other Arc Republic shows, just the need for some of the old guard to get out the way. We talked about this in regard to Mark Ridley-Thomas, in regard to Dianne Feinstein, Maxine Waters. Yeah. We talked to, and I think this is probably a bit of that as well.
Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's time for them to get out the way, especially people like Mark Ridley-Thomas, who has had his hand in LA for so long. and look, we know it's not a one person can change everything type deal, but there should have been more done for his constituents up to this point.
Right. And that, and so the thing is that, I mean, part of we as the numerical minority in Los Angeles with high rates of arrests and being the most vulnerable, 30% of the homeless population are Black men in LA. When I always say on a good day, we're probably 7% of the population.
Right.
So you want to kind of go with this narrative that says this is a direct target on a Black man, but I think we need to be more complicated in that, because in a lot of ways, Mark Ridley-Thomas, the critique is that his work does not evidence that he has been fully and totally, quote unquote, a man for the people, right? And 100%. So yeah, so that is I said, I wonder what he did or he didn't do that pissed off somebody. I mean, that. And
then we know that's what it is, right? At the end of the day, we know this is probably something that people, like we said, this has been par for the course for so many politicians. So this is something that we know goes on a regular. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Like that's literally how, especially local politics works. Even more than on the federal level, we know that's how local politics works. But there's, like I said, there's a lot of things that's been going on in LA. There's a lot of people who have been unhappy with Mark Ridley-Thomas, and there's people on the opposing side of Mark Ridley-Thomas, like you said, who have been amassing their own power and amassing their own connections to do things, because you have somebody like Bernard Parks saying these things, so if Bernard Parks is saying these things, I know he's not going to come out and make a statement like this if he's 100% alone.
Oh yeah, this is something that has been building for a very long time.
Yeah.
It was for me, what Bernard Parks' statement reads is that this was, a lot of people knew this. It was just when it was going to come down.
Like he said, it wasn't an if, it was a when.
It was when.
And he said, and we even tried to warn him so he could chill out, and he still didn't chill. So, and for Bernard Parks to come out and speak out like this, I feel like he knows more than probably the public knows, for one, about these indictments. And also, I feel like he feels like, yo, this is the time to try to clean up our side. So it don't look like we with them, because I know they like to lump the Black politicians in together.
Right, which one, Parks being a former police chief, right? He has a lot of intel and a lot of inside information we don't know, right? Yep. That's one thing. And he was in office when Mark Ridley-Thomas, this is the height, or he's really rising at this point. So what I do know about, in terms of when we're talking about police intelligence or police surveillance, and you have these events, a little bit more about politicians and what they do, so he has information.
He got the inside track. And like I said, you don't go that big on a public statement unless you know what it is. You know what I mean? Like he went big. That's not even though we're going to wait till the facts come out, which is the usual rhetoric or the usual go-to propaganda, or we're going to let the justice system know. He basically like, yeah, he did that shit, Yep. You know what I'm saying? He did that shit. I hope they go get him. I told them to go get him. I even told him to chill. Like he went into detail. So the fact that he went into detail like that, like I said, he knows more than we know, but also I feel like that means he also has some more powerful people behind him.
Oh yes, there's
to push him to the forefront to be able to say something like that.
Oh, totally. For him to even, he calls, basically he says, like you said in the beginning, he got too big for his britches. Parks calls him self-centered. Parks even alleges that Ridley-Thomas built like a multi-million-dollar man cave off of the people's tax dollars. As well, let me just say this. Several days or a week after roughly the indictment charges came down, the city council voted to suspend Mark Ridley-Thomas from office after the indictment. He has not stepped down, even though multiple entities have called for him to resign, including the Los Angeles Times, who endorsed him the last time he ran for office, even though they admitted there was some fiscal improprieties under his belt. This is, to me, just damning information to all those who listen to and adhere to only mainstream media sources. Know that those things can get funky and they're not right as well. But like I said, let me kind of give you what Ridley-Thomas is. Just very quickly, he said, "I am humbled by the support of my colleagues." So the vote was 11-3. He says, "I am humbled by the support of my colleagues who did not rush to judgment and disappointed in those who did. 11 members of this council have stripped the constituents of the 10th district of their representation, of their voice, and of their right to the services that they deserve. They have removed from action a member and his team." So Ridley-Thomas refuses to step down. However, with this council vote, he has no voting power right now in the council. Then he says, let me just say this. "They have removed from action a member and his team who together are among the most productive and effective advocates on the crisis of homelessness." Bro, if you've been effective in homelessness in LA, oh my goodness.
I've been effective in homelessness.
Yeah.
I've been effective. Like,
I don't want to see the ineffective homelessness.
Yeah.
If this is effective. My students who visited LA within the last 1 to 3 years, the first thing they talk about is the homelessness and the people all on the highways and thoroughways and the passageways and in the parks and everything. Homelessness has gotten even astronomical after the pandemic. So if you're gonna, and then to use the homeless population, bro, I don't know. But the overarching question, and we've been having this, and we talked about this very shortly prior to us coming on, is that there is a very clear breakdown in establishment politics on the Republican side and the Democratic side. What do you think this will kind of spell out for local politics in LA specifically, and also, nationally or more on a broader scale?
So to talk about LA specifically, because I want to touch on something that you said, even in his statement, that kind of shows you that there's a changing of the guard, if you will, a turning of the power. Think about it. 10 years ago, would there ever have been a vote going 11-3 against Mark Ridley-Thomas? 11-3. So that means he only had 3 people who still was rocking with him, and 11 who at least weren't afraid to vote against him. You know what I mean? So because when you have real power, 11 people not going to vote against you. It would have been closer to 50-50, but 11-3, that says a lot. That says a lot about the slippage in the cachet that he has as a lawman out here in Los Angeles. But also, to answer your next question, I think what's happening now is, like guys like my friend Andre Spicer, who is running for District 2 in Compton, and some other folks that I've seen, locally that have been running. I think you're about to see the rise of the outliers. You're going to see the rise of people from our generation and people who look like us and people who are just tired of establishment politicians. And you're going to start to see, like, we're going to have our own AOCs out here in Los Angeles and in California. I think that's what's going to happen. And I think there is going to be a rise in a different kind of independent Democratic Party, because what I'm hearing from a lot of Black folks is, look, we came in here, y'all said we need to save the democracy from Donald Trump. We did it. We got him out. We got Biden in. You had this fantastic agenda that you were supposed to be passing. You put all these Black people in your staff, and President Manchin is stopping everything.
There's talks that he says that he might be leaving the Democratic Party.
Yeah, so even if he leaves, then they won't even have the majority house anyway, right? So it's like Black folks feel like we bamboozled because we did all these things, and President Manchin and Vice President Sinema can stop the whole Democratic agenda, and that's problematic. And I say that because Joe Manchin has probably about 700,000 constituents. So one person with 700,000 constituents can stop things that are beneficial for the 62 million people who voted. That shows you how broke the system is and how much of a problem this is, because there should be no way that one politician, one congressman with only 700,000 constituents because he's, getting money from fossil fuel companies should be able to stop the infrastructure bill, the voting rights bill. Like, he's stopping every major agenda piece that the Democrats have run on. So not only is he going to make them lose the black vote, he's probably going to help the rise of another Democratic Party, which is going to be more liberal and less white liberal, like, to be clear. And I'm gonna get into that too, why it's going to be less white liberal as well. But it's going to be another Democratic Party. They're going to lose a lot of the black vote, and also at the end of that, they're going to lose the midterms.
Oh, that's a definite.
Because
in my opinion,
they haven't been able to pass any of their major points on the agenda. So if they can't pass any of those major points in the agenda, and their messaging has just been horrible. I seen for the first time today that Joe Biden came out, and whoever runs his Twitter finally was like, yo, we put more black women on the bench than anybody has ever have in history. I'm like, but that should have been headline day one. We should have known that already. Trash. Y'all messaging is trash, and that's why y'all losing. You know what I mean? Because listen, I'm not fond of them not being able to pass their big ticket items, but there also have been some good things that they've done that they should have been able to capitalize on that they haven't, which further makes them trash to me. You know what I mean? Like some of the good things you've done, you didn't even capitalize on them. And because people like to say, well, as soon as they got in there, they did something for the Asians, and they did the executive order for the Asian hate crime bill. And I said, and it's funny, I said, because I went and I really looked at that bill, and that bill was some bullshit. It had no teeth. It had no real teeth. It's just damn near a resolution. You know what I mean?
A cosmetic job. Yeah.
But the thing is, you should have did a cosmetic job for black folks too, because they don't understand the nuance of this bill. Ain't got, all they know is that bill came out, and that bill got a lot of press and a lot of pub, and it got a lot of energy in the mainstream media. So all black folks see is, oh, they got there and Asians got their thing first, and we didn't get anything. So if anything, you should have at least tried to do a cosmetic bill for black people, a cosmetic executive order for black people, just because one thing Republicans are good at is like, we not really gonna do shit, but we are good at appearances. And so it's like, yo, y'all at least got to play the game better then. Like, if you are really gonna, if you're gonna let President Manchin stop your whole agenda, you better do some things for appearances. But they can't even do that, And the reason I said I think the next party is gonna be more liberal, less white, because a lot of the people, if you guys haven't noticed, a lot of the people who are coming out against teaching critical race theory are the white liberals. It's like that's where the white liberals and the white Republicans cross. They have cross section on. We don't want to teach our kids this black shit.
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting point. I want to go back to what you were talking about in terms of the midterms and the Democrats losing. If Sharice was here, right? Sharice Nelson, right? I could say Dr. Sharice Nelson, even though I'm Dr. Kaya Niambi Shivers. People always say, why don't you call yourself doctor? You know what I'm saying? When I'm with my folk, whatever, but I always like to give respect where respect is due. But if Sharice was here, she would say, but the Democrats were going to lose anyway, right? Because that's, usually what happens, the majority vote that is in the presidential election. However, all politics are going back to local. Obama was this phenomenon where it was more of a federal national thing, but all politics are going back to local. What is going to be the breakdown in local politics in the midterm elections is going to be very, very, very interesting when you have still voter suppression, you have a disenchanted Black vote. I'm getting emails talking about this Virginia election that's going on and, oh, please, and all of these kind of scare tactics. People, not just Black people, people in the United States are tired of this, let's do this, or there's going to be an apocalypse at the end. People are like, you know what, let that apocalypse come. That's why, that's what people are so exhausted at this point. But all politics are local. Bringing it back, so let me just say this as well. I agree. I think that the GOP and the Democratic Party are going to splinter. We will see a third party at the very least, in my opinion, within the next 5 to 10 years. I'm being very conservative in that number. I wouldn't be surprised if it is earlier. I also will be surprised if Joe Biden finishes his 4 years, because he is not looking, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
Because when we see him, let's say that when we see him, so those are things that, to me, that I'm not the political expert, but I think, but let's go back to that point where Jim Clyburn in South Carolina turns the vote from Bernie
To Biden.
right? What we see in a post-pandemic era is that a lot of them folk that voted in Clyburn might not be around in 4 years due to the trash ass healthcare, the pandemic, the poverty rates and everything like that, right? So you're going to even have like maybe this rise or a complete total fall of representation of voters. This is almost kind of like, in my opinion, can be, and I told you so, right?
Yeah.
I told you so. So that's like on the federal, bringing it back to local. I am really interested to see there's going to be pushback. That's one thing that has been consistent about Black Angelenos is that you put Black Angelenos up against the wall, well, we'll riot. But anyway, first of all, but there is going to have to be, like the people you mentioned, a grassroots emergence and pushback that is going to be very clear. And it's really going to be some very interesting demarcations and some, what do you call this, lines in the sand that will be drawn.
Yeah, establishment Democrats are about to be in trouble.
Yes.
Yeah, establishment Democrats are about to be, in California specifically, they're about to be in trouble.
And I think if Congresswoman Waters knows better, she needs to have an exit plan.
I've been saying this for 2 years. She needs to start grooming her replacement.
I've been saying this for 10.
Yeah. Because it's gonna get ugly. I'm telling you, it's gonna get ugly.
Yeah, it's gonna get real ugly.
Because the worst thing they did was wake all these voters up to be aware.
Mm-hmm.
They woke all these voters up to be aware, so now people are invested. Like, okay, at first y'all was just getting our vote on some, it's Democrats, we're gonna give it to you. Mm-hmm. Now you wanted to have educated and informed voters. So now you have it. So now that you have your educated and informed voters, they're like, okay, cool. We voted for y'all. Now what y'all gonna do? Now there are expectations.
Right.
The Democrats got away for so long with not having any expectations, just like we're the better party than them. They're racist, we're not. We're gonna get the vote. That's not the case anymore. Now it's like, okay, y'all want to educate voters? Y'all wanted us to go out and educate the voters on the actual politics, how the inner workings work. Y'all want us to educate them on how important local elections were. You want us to, we done all of that. And now people are like, okay, cool. So where is this thing that I gave you that I get back in return for giving you my vote? You can't live on that stimulus for 4 years. You can't live on that 1,200 for 4 years.
Oh no, you definitely cannot. And on top of that, with the issues at the border, that are going on, there's a substantial amount of Latino voters that might might veer away more. We know that they don't vote as aggressively for the Democratic Party as the Black vote, but that is also to play. But I wanted to kind of hypervoke, in my opinion, in Los Angeles, the I don't want to say it, the political bloc that will win or get a lot of sway is the political bloc who can figure out how to have a strong voting population and how to somehow convince and activate the non-voters too. Because you can be politically active and not vote. Unfortunately, in my opinion, this idea of being politically active has just boiled down to voting. To me, that's the easiest thing you could do. Go somewhere, punch a thing or card or whatever it is.
Right.
But there's a lot of political action that can go on, around this. And when you activate those things, because like when the George Floyd protests happened, there was a lot of nervousness by the establishment because they didn't know exactly where it was going to go. So I am looking at LA in whole and see exactly where this is going. But if they're passing out indictments like Halloween
Ice cream.
candy. I'm gonna tell you, trick or treat. I told trick or treat is gonna be, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your last thoughts on this, Mr. Crawford?
I think this is one of those things that's going to be the impetus for the changing of the guard that we have been talking about. This is going to be the beginning of a cultural cleaning of a lot of the politics down here in LA, because now after this, everybody's going to know they have a microscope on them. So people doing dirt, they're going to start dropping the dirt, and the people who not going to stop, they're going to get caught. And that's also going to usher in the new blood, the people who are like, okay, cool, they're getting the corruption out of here. This is my time to run, because I could run on I got a clean bill. Like, because now inexperience is going to be a plus. Now it's going to be, I'm not establishment. I haven't been corrupted by the establishment Democrats. I can come in here and I can do a good job and clean this thing up, and I could be a man for the people. That's so that's, I think, is what's going to come up in the ranks next time, because it's always filled in a vacuum, always.
And you know what I forgot to ask you, because I think there is an interesting tie. What's going on with these ports?
Yo, it's crazy. I think it takes like.
And what I'm talking about are in Los Angeles right now, there is the Long Beach port, the Long Beach San Pedro port, which is one of the busiest ports in the world. The last time the report said there were over 100 ships waiting to dock and unload its stuff.
18 days. 18 days is the average for a ship to get in, unload, dock, and get out. 18 days, and it's not getting any better, because they said, because even once, I mean, it's basically like, like a bottleneck is happening right now, and it's going to get worse because Christmas is coming. So these ships aren't going to stop coming, and there's a lot of stuff that it's a lot of stuff that's been on back order for months. Lumber, the price of lumber has skyrocketed because of this. The price of building materials, of course, in the middle of this, my dad is doing some construction, so it hits you specifically, where it's like a light switch that cost $5.99 last week now costs $25.99 because it's limited, and that's all they have. And once this is going, they don't know when it's going to be back in stock. I was getting a custom drum set built, and the custom drum set usually takes about 2 weeks to get built to grab the materials, but now it's like, we don't know when the pieces are going to come in, because the lumber is so high and the lumber is stuck, and it's a specific wood we use for these drum sets. So now I don't know when the drum set is coming in. So it's affecting so many things. It's affecting the department stores, and it's affecting those small, like those little 99-cent stores that get a lot of those little trinkets and little fake toys from Japan and China, and it's affecting all of that. So it's trickling down in so many places in so many ways, and it's I don't know when it's going to get better. And the prognosis from the economists is it's going to take a while. Even after they start getting ships up out of here, it's still going to be an effect on all the stuff that's dropped off here now, because now you might end up having too much stuff, because people have been double ordering. Like, well, this ship didn't come in, I'm gonna order it again, and hopefully this ship will come in before that one. So that's what's been happening as well.
And also, my father was a truck driver. He worked on those Long Beach ports for decades, and dealt with off the chain racism, to the point that he was almost killed a couple of times because of the setups and the racism, and ultimately was forced into retirement. My brother worked there. He no longer works there, but my brother is still a truck driver, and has like a growing cadre of Black male and female truck drivers. What I can say is that prior to, for the last, I would say 15 or 20 years, this is what happened. A lot of, to me, folk in the US who could have had jobs as on the port and as truck drivers, a lot of this outsourcing came up. One of the huge issues in California, where there were so many car accidents with drivers coming from Mexico who probably did not have licenses, damn sure didn't know how to drive an 18-wheeler. And all of the potential jobs this took away. So now you have this bottleneck, and you have a shortage of truck drivers, right?
Yes, you have a shortage of truck drivers and companies now. Because a friend of mine, she's a truck driver, she said what happened is a lot of the long distance truck companies said, well, look, there's so many local pickups to do throughout the day just to keep stuff running. We can make all our money off of local pickups and local contracts. So now you have a lot of those truck companies that were long distance trucking companies. They have just went to local pickups because, you know, because of all the grocery stores and all the lumber yards and all that stuff that needs to happen here in state. So now you lost a bunch of the long distance truck drivers, and there hasn't been anyone to fill that void either.
Right. And also trucks are very high maintenance vehicles. So you can get more out of a truck, or you won't wear and tear a truck when it's local as opposed to when it's cross country. But I just have to say, you know, I have a family full of truck drivers, and they often talked about the unfair competition that happened when they attempted to have full careers as truck drivers, and what would happen. Well, in the pandemic, because this is not like a Mexican versus a black thing, but this is talking about real ramifications in a capitalistic system when you get the cheaper, what is considered the cheaper version of whatever it is in order to make higher profit. Now you have, in the Great Resignation, in the era of Great Resignation, you have people that so many people could get so many people right now can start driving trucks. But in the era of Great Resignation, there's this interesting fallout. I know there's not a kind of like clear connection to what it is that I'm saying, but I just wanted to kind of bring forward some of the stuff, you know, where the streets are talking, where the conversations that the people, you know, are having, you know, about the shortages.
And it's also still a good old boys club. A lot of these trucking places, even though they aren't even really the drivers no more, it's still a good old boys club when it comes to the supervisors and the ones who get the good shifts, and all the Black and Latino workers get the shit shifts and all that. And so that's still happening. That's from the truck drivers I know, that is still occurring on a large scale and a large level.
Well, we will see what is popping and what is good, but please be safe. Thank you so much for indulging me and diving in and jumping in on this.
This was good.
Yes, yes. You know, it is definitely the Wild Wild West on the West Side. So
it is. It really is.
All right, take care. This is Kaya Niambi Shivers and Dane Crawford for Arc Republic News.
Let's embark on the Arc Republic to hear current news that's published. More than gossip and chatter, covering current affairs that matter. We talk issues with professional views, all keeping you in queue. We wanted a higher vibe for these days and times, to free the voices and minds, reporting the sign of the times, so all can build. Let's shine, yeah.